So for problem set 1, we're going to use Boston City data, and we can get this from Boston City, but I'm going to give you some of the data to start. So I've got a file called bostonsmall.json. It starts with an object here, yep. Then there's a comma, and then we've got another part to that very first object. Yep. And this is an array of arrays. This is mainly where all the data lies, okay? Now, if we look at this data, let's look at line 20 here, let's focus there. As we scroll along, we'll see there's lots of elements to that array. So that array contains about 21 elements actually. And the one that we want to focus on, or the few that we want to focus on, we want to know what's their profession. So here we've got, say, teacher or driver. And this says where they're employed. We're going to ignore their names for now. And then at the end here, we have their total salary. This is salary with overtime, and this is a zip code. But we're going to filter out the salaries above 300,000. Okay, so in this set here, I don't think we have any above 300,000. I've only got 20, as I say. But for the main set, there will be some over 300,000. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read this file. So we're going to use node to pick up and read the file from a directory. So we're going to put these files into a directory. So I've got them here under documents and lecture 3. And I'm giving you these Boston City. Okay, you can download that data. And let's take a look at this read.js first. Okay, because we need to have Node.js pick up and read a file. So this is what we need in our JavaScript. We're going to require this one, this file sync fs, and this reads a file, and here we're going to run this locally. So bostonsmall.json is in the same directory as this read.js. So we can just pick it up, and it's a UTF-8 file, and it reads it as a string. Okay, so this thing will get read as a string. So we can turn it into a JavaScript object by using JSON parse, json.parse. Now this is an object. Now, our object has got two properties, and one of them happens to be called data. So here, I'm getting list as a list of the actual data. Now I write a function. There happens to be a function called, on arrays, called filter. And we need to provide a function, a callback in this case, yep, that does what we want. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to loop over everything in that list. So each row we're going to loop over, and that's passed to greater check. So now I happen to know that in that row, the 18th element is a salary. It's a string, so I have to turn it into an integer, and now I do a check. And if it is greater than 100,000, I'm going to return that row, which will then get put into this new list. And we're going to write out the new list and the length. Okay, so we need to go to Boston City. So here I am. And I've got this read.js, and I can do node read.js. And it returns to me each of those rows and how many were above 100,000. In this case, there's 5. Okay, so we could clean this up, but it's basically working. Okay, so that's the first part, how to pick up that file. Now, let's see if we can front this file. So now what I want to do is I want to run a web server here locally that I can hit to get this file. So there's a simple web server that we can get. So we do npm init. Okay, so I've done this before. I'm just going to accept everything, okay? And now npm install, and it's called http-server. And you can do a save if you want, but this will work. Okay. So now we can run that, and to run that server, it's just http server. Okay, so we're not using node. And you'll notice that it's running on port 8080. So if I open a browser now, let me get myself a new browser here. Here's one. Okay. Now, if I hit localhost 8080, you can see that it lists out the files, and bostonsmall.json is there, and we can, if I click on it, it'll bring it up. Yep, so here's that data. So we've got a server now, and now we want to use our test.js file. Let's go to that file. So I've got test.js, here it is. Now this is the one that uses Express. So we need to load up Express as well. So let me just do that. So I'm going to stop this a minute. And I want to do npm, npm install Express. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run 2 web services. One, when I hit it, is going to query the other, because I want to go and query the Boston City one. But for now, let me have my own server, this HTTP server, to serve up that data, to pretend to be the Boston City website. Okay, so we've got that loaded. I've got a new window here. So I'm going to fire up first the HTTP. So that's going to be running on port 8080. And now I want to run the Node Express. So let's take a look at test, what it's got in it at the moment. So test is going to run Express, and it's going to serve up that lucky number. But if I hit, and it's going to be listening on port, I've got 9082 here. Let me see if I can get. Be careful, some of the ports get busy. So let me just go back to that. And what I've got here is that here I'm going out to Boston City. I don't actually want to do that. Let me go to localhost. I'm going to save this. Let me save those options here. I'm going to copy them and put them into my here. I'm going to put it there just for later use. Okay, so what I want to do is the host is localhost. Okay, we need a port. So we're going to be hitting 8080. Okay, we're running, and I need a comma there. And here the path Now, instead of that .json, we need Boston small. Okay, so when I hit this path MIT, I'm actually going to go out to a server on my machine and try and pick up Boston small. Okay, the path, and I'm going to put a slash in front of that. Oops. I'll put a slash in front of that. Okay, so let's run test. And what I'm doing in test is once the data has been loaded, I'm doing json.parse on it. Okay, and I'm just pushing back the second row, actually, number 1. Yeah, it started 0 base, so in the array, I'm just going to push back the second row. So let's go to, yep, I've got test.js here, so now I can do node. And I'm listing on 9081. Let's go back to our browser, and now I want to hit 9081. First I'm going to test it that I get a lucky number. Yep, let me reload. Yep, I've got a lucky number. And what I'm saying now is if I hit MIT, this should go to my HTTP server, and yep, it brings back just 1 row. Okay, so we've seen how now we can hit a server, get the data back, and manipulate it before we push it back to the browser. And next time we're going to move our server to be on AWS, and we'll be hitting the real website for Boston City data. Okay.